All right, let's see if we're on Facebook. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think we're live on Facebook as well. Okay, I think we're live on Facebook as well. Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another hurricane season 2026. I'm Jim Williams, hurricanecity.com. I'll be with you for about an hour tonight. I've got some images to show you, some videos. What kind of a season is this going to be? Are we going to be talking about a blockbuster season as far as impacts are concerned, like last year? Even though we didn't have a lot of storms last year, I think we had 13. It only took one, and that was Hurricane Melissa, which ravaged western Jamaica. So, um, you know, it only takes one. And I've mentioned this on Facebook and on YouTube a few times and other social media over the past month or so that slow seasons we've seen over 50% of the storms make landfall somewhere in the Atlantic basin. So even if we have 13, let's just say, I'm predicting 12 to 14. Let's just say we have 13 and, half of those you're talking 6 or 7 storms are going to impact land. And there's going to be a lot of people impacted, whether it's busy or slow. So you better be ready. But if you're tuning in tonight for hurricane preparation talk, you're not going to get that here. What I'm going to talk about tonight is my predictions, of course, what areas are vulnerable. I want to talk a lot about the models tonight because there are some new additions to the AI models, and I'm worried about the impacts that that's going to have on social media. I'm also going to talk about the conference, which I just attended in Texas in April. The good, the bad, the ugly about that one. Highly recommended. I'll get to that in a minute. I have some brand new stuff at hurricanecity.com I want to share with you, and new stuff here at the house. Generator, new roof, etc. I'll get to those pictures. Also have a little bit of a peeve about Hurricane Idalia in 2023. Bill Phillips and myself, we were we dropped the cameras in Steinhatchee and areas up in the north west part of Florida in the Big Bend area, and then we retreated to Perry, Florida, and we measured a gust to 166. Now, and I talked to Josh Morganman about this at the conference. The thing about it is there's some proof that it may be accurate, and I'm going to get to that data towards the end of the show. So the big thing about this season coming up is it's supposed to be a strong El Nino. And Not only that, but the sea surface temperatures aren't really real warm. In fact, let me pull up an anomaly here, um, show you kind of what's happening here in the Atlantic basin. So the red would indicate warmer than normal temperatures, and the white is average, and the blue on the screen are, excuse me, below normal temperatures compared to normal. So if you notice out here, there's a lot of white areas. I mean, it's just the whole, just north of the intertropical convergence zone out here. It's mainly white. Now, there's a little bit of warmth in here in the Gulf of Mexico and in the Western Caribbean, and down here below 10 north, but you don't get a lot of development down here. So this area right here is where you're going to see most of the development. And right now it's kind of cool. So if we see any development, it's going to be probably early, and it's going to be in this general area over in here. So as I stated, it doesn't mean that you can let your guard down when you look at these sea surface temperatures, because I'm going to show you the actual sea surface temperatures on the map at Hurricane City in a few minutes. And it's an incredible map, by the way. The map at Hurricane City is incredible. You can click on it. It tells you the sea surface temperatures. No matter how much you zoom in to your local area, it'll tell you your sea surface temperatures right off the coast. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. But these are anomalies. This is just compared to normal. So it's not really warm. It's kind of, I would call this map a wash. I would say it's, like last year there was a lot more reds on the map than we're seeing right now. So unless this catches up, our area of development is going to be mainly in this general area right in here, close to home. And of course, off the southeastern United States. So that's where we're going to have to watch, especially early in the hurricane season. So, let me see. If I'm going to start with, let me see. No, yeah. Well, so basically, this is where we were in the 70s, right? We were in the 70s and 80s, we were averaging like 10 named storms. And then lately, since the 1990, it's really taken off. We've been averaging, it seems like we've been averaging 15 to 20 named storms. The average is 14. But we've been getting, 18, 19, 20, even in 2023, which was an El Nino, supposedly an El Nino year. And that's a whole other subject. The El Nino, what the definition of an El Nino season, you could argue all day about that. But supposedly in 2023, it was an El Nino year. We had 20 named storms. So, I mean, technically speaking, we could potentially, even though the sea surface temperatures are warmer in 2023 than they are right now, at least the anomalies anyway, I don't think we're going to see 20, but it wouldn't be out of the question, like I said, to see 15 perhaps. But it also wouldn't surprise me if we saw only 10. So that's the dilemma, is how many named storms there's going to be. And that would reflect on whether my predictions are going to be accurate or not. And I'll get to all that again a little bit later in the show. But, this is also the 100-year anniversary of the 1926 hurricane, which ravaged South Florida. Now, this wasn't an Andrew. The 1926 hurricane that hit South Florida came in through the Bahamas and right into Southeast Florida with 140, 145 mile per hour winds, but it was a large hurricane. And in fact, it was so large that the hurricane force wind field was up in West Palm Beach. And even though it hit Miami, the hurricane force winds were up in West Palm Beach, and roofs were being ripped off in West Palm Beach. So it tells you the size of that hurricane, incredible. And that was also a slow season, by the way. There were 11 named storms back in 1926, and of course there might have been some we missed. I get all that, but again, a slow season. And Southeast Florida and the Bahamas, I'm really concerned about, because they get hit a lot in slower hurricane seasons. So we're going to see if this all plays out. But keep in mind, it is a 100-year anniversary. And for you people in Southeast Florida, and I run into people all the time, I don't talk about hurricanes and Hurricane City a lot in my business and in my private life too much. But every now and then I'll stumble upon somebody having a hurricane conversation. I just can't resist, of course, jumping in there and explaining to people that we've been slammed by a whole bunch of hurricanes, even though We had last were hit by a hurricane directly in 2005, Hurricane Wilma. That's 21 years ago. So it's hard to convince people that we get hit every 5 years in South Florida. And that's a 5 year return rate for hurricanes going back to 1871. So we get slammed by hurricanes. So don't let that fool you. And again, a lot of those slower seasons, the average to slow seasons, the ones you got to really watch out for if you're in the southeastern United States, because and when there's more hurricanes, they tend to make it more into the Gulf. So that whole southeast area there, even though it might only be one or two that does a lot of damage, be ready, because that is where all the damage is going to take place. I believe, if we have any damage this year, and I'm not guaranteeing anybody's going to get slammed by a hurricane. There have been several hurricane seasons where no hurricanes made landfall, but there has never been a season where no tropical storms made landfall. So somebody's going to get impacted this year. Bank on it. And by the way, back to that picture of Hurricane Melissa here, Jamaica. You have to go back quite a few years to find an impact by a hurricane, direct hit by a hurricane, followed by another direct hit by a hurricane the next year. In fact, I had to go all the way back to like the early 1900s to find that. Now, that's not saying that they weren't impacted by hurricane force wind fields. Like, for example, last year, Beryl passed just almost in the same position as you see on the screen there of Hurricane Melissa. Beryl followed, came up just about that close to Jamaica as it was heading west. Even though the eye didn't come on shore Jamaica, they were impacted by two hurricanes, but the eye didn't make it on shore. So I'm talking about the eye making it on shore Jamaica. You'd have to go back a whole bunch of years to find two consecutive years where they've had hurricane strikes on the island. So that doesn't mean they're going to be free and clear this year, because like I said, a lot of that development is going to be in close in the Western Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico and the Bahamas. So anything that develops down there, it's going to be near or over Jamaica. So I wouldn't rule out that you're going to get a hurricane just because it doesn't happen, that you get two in a row making landfall. It could happen. There's always anomalies to everything. But, anyway, let me get further along with my pictures here. Oh, and by the way, I just hope, while I have this image up and everybody's thinking major, right? I just hope that the United States doesn't get hit this year, because FEMA has been dismantled for the most part. I mean, I don't even know how it's going to function right. Thankfully, in Florida here, we have a good emergency management division that can handle a lot of the stuff for Florida, but I fear any other area like Georgia, South Carolina, the Carolinas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. It's going to be tough sailing if a major comes in there. Good luck, because the federal government's not going to be doing very much because of what's happened with FEMA. And I'm not going to get into the politics of it tonight, but let's just hope that doesn't happen, because it's going to be kind of ugly as far as the search and rescue and preparation. I mean, the aftermath recovery from a hurricane. Let's just hope it doesn't come to that. So I attended the hurricane conference in Texas, down in Padre Island, Texas, and back in April. I hem and hawed about this a lot, going to this conference, because it's far away. It's you have to have a layover. It's getting on two different airplanes. It's a lot of time away from home. I run a business. A lot of you know this. In fact, before I get to any further on the conference, let me just give for anybody that new that's watching me tonight, a little history about myself. I started Hurricane City in 1997. Even before that at GeoCities, toying around with different stuff. And I was one of the first to have a hurricane website online. And I was the very first to do a live broadcast of hurricanes. The very first, Hurricane George back in 1998. It was over the phone in audio, but we used to do audio presentations, a real audio encoder and producer, and we would do audio coverage of hurricanes. So I was the very first to do a live anything about hurricanes on the internet, and I'm proud of that fact. But also, product development of Hurricane City over the years has gotten better and better. And today it's better than any website out there. I'm going to show you some of the new stuff we have. It's just unbelievable, Hurricane City. But I've been doing this a long time. Even when I was a kid, I was into hurricanes. I'm not a degreed meteorologist. I haven't worked at the Hurricane Center or anything like that. I do a lot of data and research, going over countless microfilms, newspapers, historical documents, linking them all in the database at Hurricane City. There's 139 cities in the database. It's been researched by everybody that I know that's been doing hurricane research for as long as I can remember. They've all referenced that database at one point or another to find out something. So it's been widely used by experts all across the field. So that's my claim to fame. But again, I'm not a meteorologist, so I don't pretend to be. That's why I try to stay off social media. When there's an active system, I'll post once in a while my opinions of where I think something might veer or head, but I don't sit there posting multiple times a day and showing crazy model runs and all that. It's just not the way I'm wired. I'll get to that subject in a little bit too, but back to the conference. So it's, what I like about this conference, and again, I was debating about whether to go, but I was glad that I went because it's a cozy conference. There's maybe 100, 150 people, as you can see in the room there. There were some people behind where I was shooting this picture. So I think they said it was like 150 people were there. I know there were a lot of people that didn't show up for numerous reasons. There could have been because we're expecting a slow hurricane season. Maybe their companies they work for didn't want to spend the money to send them. I don't know, but there were a lot of badges left on the table in the conference check-in room. So I'm assuming it's probably a bigger crowd than what was normally there for this time that I went. I've gone to a lot of conferences over the years. I've gone to numerous Florida governors' hurricane conferences. I've been to a couple of the national conferences. But this was my first tropical weather conference, and this was the conference that takes place of the Bahamas Hurricane Conference that they tried to kick off for a few years. And I guess they had maybe attendance or organizational problems. And the guys like Bill Reed, former director of the Hurricane Center, they went to those conferences and decided, we can do this here in Texas. And we can draw a lot of people from the States because a lot of people couldn't afford to go to the Bahamas. I mean, it's kind of a really hard thing to ask people to, fly outside the United States to attend a hurricane conference. So even though it's beautiful in the Bahamas and it's well worth it, I never went to that conference, but this is the replacement conference. So I flew into Brownsville, and I was expecting a shuttle there. I told them the time that I was going to be arriving, and I was in contact with Tim Smith and Alex Garcia, back and forth, through emails that I was going to be on this particular flight. Gave them my itinerary. I'm coming in at this particular time, so I get there, and there's no shuttle. So I'm calling and I'm emailing, and I've been contacting Mark Siddeth from HurricaneTrack.com because Mark was the one that was encouraging me to show up at this conference and go to it. And he goes, if you need any help, give me a call. So I texted Mark and go, there's no shuttle here to pick me up. So finally, I think it was Tim got in touch with me, texted me and said, we got a shuttle, but it's going to be 2 hours away. And I didn't want to just sit there for 2 hours. So I'm like, you know what, I'll just take a taxi and head in. It costed me $80. I wasn't happy about that at all. But I mean, things happen. It was just a mistake. But needless to say, when I was leaving that conference, you better bet your ass that I made sure that I had transportation lined up, and I called the driver and everything to make sure, are you coming to get me? Because, it's a long drive to get to the airport. The airport is really far away from the conference, and unlike other conferences I've been to, the airport's pretty close to the conference, so it's just a matter of, a few miles to get to the conference center. But this one was like, it was 30 miles or something, like some crazy amount of miles to drive to get to the conference. And, I was going to get a rental car, and then I think, what do I need a rental car? I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to be at the conference around that hotel. I was staying at the Holiday Inn next door. I was going to make a joke about that, actually, that, I'm Jim Williams. I'm not a meteorologist, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night. Like, literally, I stayed at a Holiday Inn, which is a lot cheaper, by the way, than the conference hotel that they had for where the conference was being held, and you had to reserve that by a certain amount of time anyway. So I didn't make it in time to get the reservation for that hotel, and I just figured I kind of procrastinated about going to the conference, so I wasn't sure. And I bought the Holiday Inn ticket at the last minute, so it was only 100 yards away. I just walked to the hotel, no big deal. All right, so it's a cozy conference. I'm going to start the bad and the good about it before I get to each individual interaction that I had at that conference, because there's a lot to be learned here tonight. I want people to hear some of the stories and the conversations that were had. But the the good thing about the conference is it's a small crowd, and every speech, every presentation is in that room that you're looking at there. There's no, like, when you go to the Florida Governor's Conference, you got to go to this room for that and another room for something. And a lot of the meetings are taking place at the same time, so you're missing things. And I just like where everybody's in the same room. And what I really love is when they have the Q&A, they hand a wireless microphone around, and people, you can ask them questions. It's more intimate. Like, you don't get that at the other conferences. It's huge amounts of people that are in all these different rooms. They do have a main room for the award ceremony, the luncheons, where you can meet people and stuff like that. But in this room, you could walk around and talk to anybody at any moment. It's not like people were in the middle of doing something where they couldn't talk to you. It was just a smaller crowd, and I recognized a lot of the people. There were a lot of meteorologists, storm chasers, people that have internet content. So it was more enjoyable for me. I could recognize a lot more people and have real conversations rather than being at these bigger conferences where you have a bunch of emergency management people and God knows, I mean, people from all walks of life in emergency management that you're never going to see or hear from again. So it's kind of like what I do and what they do are two complete different things. So this fit me more. Um, but I liked the coziness of it, and I liked the outdoor venue. They had food. At the end of the conference, we had a dinner at a restaurant, and they gave out prizes. And that was when they were having the moon, the crew that flew around the Artemis mission that flew around the moon. They were landing, and everybody was watching that on the big screen while they were eating, and they were handing out awards and everything. So that was kind of cool. I love the interactions, like with the former NHC directors and Phil Klotzbach and all, and it's just a nice venue. Oh, and I love the Millibar. I got to talk about the Millibar. So there's this bar in the hotel that's a few doors down. And next year, I understand they're going to have it at a different hotel, but it'll probably be the same kind of situation. But they had what's called the Millibar. As for those of you that don't know, millibars are a way of measuring the pressure in hurricanes, kind of like barometric pressure. It is barometric pressure. It's called millibars, and they have called the Millibar. So you go in there, and there's free alcohol, and everybody's drinking and carrying on, telling stories. And I hear from everybody that the crowd was as big as last year, and there were no fist fights or anything like that. There was some disagreement, some things that happened in the room, but I mean, it's all in good fun, and everybody's just learning and bouncing ideas off each other. And I love the conference. I love the concept of the Millibar. I think that's fantastic. I mean, it's just, I wish more people would have gotten in there and talked, but maybe some people don't drink. Maybe they don't want to socialize. I don't know. So anyway, here's the bad part. The speeches, right? So I like the layout, but the first 2 days, it was a 4-day conference. The first 2 days were nothing but the National Hurricane Center. The first day was fine. It was talking about storm surge, and they were talking about the new products that they're releasing at the National Hurricane, the new graphics and all the ideas they wanted to bounce off the audience, which I really found fascinating. They did a fantastic job. Jamie Roan was one of the forecasters there, was the MC, so to speak, of the Hurricane Center products and introducing the different people from the National Hurricane Center. But it went into 2 days, and I thought that was a little bit long. 2 whole days, because the second day was mainly preachy. it just seemed to me like it was like, this is what you should do, this is what we expect you to do, that kind of stuff. And I never liked that kind of stuff at any of the conferences. And I thought they spent a whole day kind of preaching to the audience about what we think you ought to be doing. And I didn't like it. I thought they could have taken that time to had more people speak up on that platform and talk about other things other than the National Hurricane Center. There, you have a lot of talent in that room that I thought was wasted, that I would have liked to have heard from rather than the National Hurricane Center. I think one whole day of National Hurricane Center was enough. And what I also didn't like was the National Hurricane Center guys got up and left after their presentation. They didn't stick around and listen to all the other presentations that people had to produce. And I thought that was kind of pathetic. I mean, if you're going to attend the conference, I think you should stay all for the whole thing and watch all the presentations. I don't like that they got up and walked out of the room. I thought that was kind of low class. The other thing, there was another beef I had about that. I thought that they didn't give the guys enough time to speak that were up there. I mean, they gave everybody, some of these people, like 15 minutes. Like, it's just not quite enough to really get in what you want to say. Meanwhile, they let the NHC go for, what's it, 12 hours of talking, like, and everybody else got like 15 minutes. I just thought that, I love the concept to hand the mic around. There were a lot of good questions. I just thought that and the transportation issues needed to be addressed from my personal perspective. But I think other than that, it's good. But I think they need to give more people chances to speak at this conference and get them up on that stage rather than the NHC taking up all that time. All right, so Mark was one of the speakers, Mark Smith from hurricanetrack.com. And, Mark and I go way back to the early 2000s, late 90s. In fact, one time I said Mark had the best website back in around 2000, I think it was, talking about websites. That was when both of our sites were in their infancy, and he had a really good website layout and everything. And Mark talked about his instruments failing and how they fell off the bridges, because he had the ratcheted with like wing bolts, and the vibration of the bridge would cause the bolts to undo themselves and the instruments would fall in the water. But for a while there, he thought that people were stealing the instruments. And I've seen his instruments, strap the bridges, because a lot of times I'll go and I'll poke my camera up, and then I look and I go, oh, there's Mark's, all right, because he's the only one that does that kind of thing. So I'll take a video of it for if it's missing, I can say, well, that's what it looked like or whatever. But I follow Mark's streams. He does a lot of live streaming, which I really like, and I'm glad that they gave him an opportunity to talk at this. And, Mark and I went out to dinner, by the way, they had everybody break up into groups where you could go with like 4 or 5 people to one restaurant, 4 or 5 people went to another restaurant, then another one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Mark and I, we talked a lot about a lot of stuff. I got to meet his wife. By the way, I have the comments open. I'll put the comments on the board. In fact, let's see. Oh, and Bill Reed's listening. Enjoyed having us. Thank you, Bill. Nancy loved the conference info from Nancy. Appreciate that, Nancy. Glad you're watching. If anybody wants to comment, I'll put your comments on air. But anyway, Bill, it was glad to meet you too, by the way. It's been a lot of years since Bill and I met Bill. Last time I met Bill Reed, we were at the conference down here, and Bill Phillips was with me, and we got to know Bill and did an interview with him and everything. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad to see Bill again. Bill Reed was the MC of the event. He would introduce the people and hand the microphone around, and he was joking around. He was a great guy, good fun. Good to see him again. But anyway, back to Mark. So Mark and I go back a long ways, and it was interesting to see, how much equipment he's actually lost by, phenomenon and crazy stuff going on. And somebody actually did steal one of his instruments once. And I don't think they ever found out who did it. They were trying to trace who stole it, but it's not a good idea. Look, these guys spends a lot of money on this stuff, like thousands and thousands of dollars. And I know he has people that donate to his website, but it's still a lot of out of pocket. I don't care what anybody says that's in this business. Everybody's digging in their pocket at some point, and so it was good to see Mark give that presentation. And of course, Josh Morganman, he was talking about his Hurricane Melissa experience, and this was a really good presentation because maybe it's because he turned the volume up real loud. I don't know, but we got a look at the inside of most of the video. I know he released bits and pieces of it on social media as it was happening, but this was like a full-on, presentation of what it was like as it was approaching, as it was happening, right afterwards, and the emotions of the people in the room that he was with. I thought that was really important to address. The people and the way they were responding to what was happening outside is always important in hurricane coverage. I don't get to do that because I'm not inside. Like when I chase hurricanes, I'm out in it. So I'm not in anybody's house to film them like that. But I thought that was a really good idea. The closest I came to that was in Hurricane Michael when there was a woman that was helping somebody, some homeless guy, and was worried about him. And I told her, you need to get home. I took her home. And, Bill and I were on the live feed saying, do you have a mattress to put over your head? This is going to be really bad. And, I never really followed up with the woman. But, I mean, that's the closest interaction I have with people out in the field. But Josh Morganman, to film those people's reactions to everything was really good. And Josh and I, we went out back one of the nights at the conference out where the beach area was, and we talked for like an hour, just him and I. And he, we talked a lot about live streaming. He doesn't like to live stream because it's too involved and everybody knows everything you're doing every minute. And he's more of a guy that likes to get a good shot, set it up, do a 1 minute video, and then upload it to social media. So I get that. It's a whole different thing that he does. And, he invited me to his hurricane party. I don't know if he's having one this year. We talked a lot about the criticism that he takes for what he does. Like, I admire the fact that the guy stands up and goes, you know what? I like to be in hurricanes and I'm not apologizing for it. I met Warren Faley at the conference as well, and he's the same way. He goes out and does his thing, and he did a presentation as well on getting sores when you walk through the water. Do not, if you have any sores on your legs and your area floods in a hurricane, do not walk through that water because you could end up with a flesh-eating disease, and you don't want to deal with that. So that was his presentation from Warren Faley. But Josh Morganman, really good presentation. I liked it. I just wish, I told him, I go, why don't you should try to get out a little bit more in the storm. Like, if I was him, I would have got out from inside that door and I would have got out on the railing and I would have filmed some of it because you could have really got some good footage out on that railing, like maybe towards where the wind was blowing. Maybe get a helmet or something, put something over your head and just lean up against the wall and try to get some footage. I know the late Jim Leonard probably would have done that, and Hurricane Melissa, he would have got out in it, to try to, be not indoors, but Josh Morganman's also creating a presentation of safety. And that's a big thing. You want to be safe. You want to put the portrayal of being safe, like Mark does that. Mark puts his cameras on the beach and he retreats inland. I do the same thing. I put my cameras as close to the ocean as I can, but I try to stay within, just outside the surge zone. So I'm in the hurricane. But Morganman is more about staying indoors. I know he did that in Dorian as well. He stayed inside of a schoolroom or something. But I asked him about some of the hurricanes that he chased that he didn't want to chase. Some of like Hurricane Debbie in 2024 or 25. Was it last year or the year before? No, it was the year before. Debbie was like the first hurricane threat before Helene and Milton. And it was like he's driving and you could tell he was pissed off because it's like 80 miles an hour hurricane. And I know he's like, oh, do I really want to do this? And it's going to be in Perry, Florida. And it's the worst place to chase. And, we just talked about a lot of stuff. I can't get into it here tonight because I only have an hour to do this show, an hour and a half. But great to meet Josh Morganman and catch up and meet him for the first time, actually. We've talked a lot on social media. I've talked about defending him a lot from the people that are attacking him all the time. At first I thought, about Morganman, I thought, this is a guy that's, really into himself. And, that may be the case. It takes a little bit of ego for all these chasers to do what they do. But what I admire is that he holds firm and says, I like to be in the eye of a hurricane. He doesn't really care about the storm surge. He doesn't care about tornadoes. He doesn't care about winter storm and all. He's a hurricane guy. That's the way I am. I only care about hurricanes. But he travels the globe and he covers everything. So I have utmost respect for the amount of intercepts he's been in, and truly incredible effort. So I mean, I'll defend him all the time. This is phenomenal. I'd like to get to his house and see his weather instruments set up and everything. I don't even know if he's doing a party this year, but anyway, maybe I'll go if it's later on or something. But this was by far the best presentation of the night. This was the hurricane hunters talking about their experience in Hurricane Melissa, and that hurricane ravaged those plains when they went in there. A lot of turbulence. There was so much turbulence that it was a male. There's two. I don't know how many people were on that. I think it was 4 or 5. One of them was a female. That was one of the flight. I think she was one of the flight crew. I might be wrong on that, but at any rate, she did her interview in this video, and it was amazing. She said everybody was getting thrown around the plane, like everything was getting tossed, and there were injuries. She had to go. I think she had to go to the hospital for a concussion. And the guy on the right there, Colonel Ryan Rickert, he was not on the plane, but he was the one giving the presentation, and everybody asked him, would you like to have been on that plane? And he's like, yes and no. I wanted to be on the plane so I could say I was in that hurricane and I got thrown around like that. But on the other hand, he could have died, and he's kind of glad that then they got out alive and everybody was okay. But it could have turned out tragic. These guys are like heroes. I mean, the stuff they do. The plane had some damage. Just incredible. And it wasn't just their plane. I think there was another one that had issues going into that hurricane. Melissa was a beast, and these guys give them a ton of credit for flying into these hurricanes. But I asked them the question. They hand the microphone around. And I asked the question about, I've heard that you get a lot of turbulence in weaker systems, like the Category 1s, tropical storms, the ones that are in development stages. And he said, yeah, that they do experience more turbulence in the developing tropical systems because there's more wind shear, because the different levels of the atmosphere are trying to mold together, and there's just a lot of turbulence going on. And then at the end of his presentation, they gave out some goodies. One of them was they asked questions. That's what it was. There was a Q&A, and if you got the questions right, you got one of their drop zones. I would have loved to have had one of those drop zones, but I didn't answer any of the questions right. And then they gave out stickers, one of which I have here behind me on the actually, forget it. It's folded up back there, but I have one of the stickers on the file cabinet back there. But this was by far the best presentation. And you could tell everybody in the room, kind of like with Josh's presentation, this one was even more intense because these are guys that do this for a living every day, and they were out there saying, oh my God, this was terrible. And the videos and it's just tremendous presentation that was. That was the wow presentation of the night. But Morgan was right behind him with his presentation. I thought the video was outstanding. So here's Hurricane Hal. Now, for those of you that don't know Hurricane Hal, he's out of Texas, and he does the tours for the Galveston area on the historic hurricanes that have hit Galveston, and he's really good with storm surge stuff. And I remember back in 21, I was chasing Hurricane, what was it? I've been in like 13 hurricanes, and I'm trying to remember the hurricane. It was not a Valley. It was something with a D, and I can't remember. Anyway, it's beside the point. It's not beside the point because it's relevant to the story. But anyway, that hurricane that hit Louisiana, the storm surge from the NHC, the forecast was like Armageddon kind of stuff. So I was in Homa, and no, I was in the other city near Homa. No, I was in Homa and tried to get closer to the hurricane, but I decided to stay. No, I was in Morgan City. That's right. I was in Morgan City, and the surge forecast was incredible. And I went back and read Hal's posts after that hurricane, and he was like, no, the surge is only going to be like 6 feet. Now, had I known that, I may have gone into uh, um, the city I just mentioned a minute ago, from Louisiana, Homa. And I did. I set my camera up in Homa, but I didn't ride it out in Homa only because I was fearful of the storm surge. So I told him, I said, I'm paying attention to your storm surge from now on. It's a fabulous job you do on the forecasting of storm surges. And he was glad to meet me. He references my database all the time. And I was amazed to hear how many people referenced the database at Hurricane City at that conference. I was really proud of that. Like some of these people were kids. They were just teenagers finding Hurricane City, and they were going through all the data, and they're like, "Oh my God, this thing is a city by city search thing, and it's really cool." And Hal mentioned it; he's referenced it and told other people about it, so I really appreciated it. Hal's a fantastic guy. Check him out on social media, Hurricane Hal. Um, so here's Michael Lowry. Now he's the local hurricane expert at WPLG in Miami, and Michael, I believe he went to the University of Miami, and when he was growing up, he was referencing the Hurricane City database. He told me he's been to the site, he's looked all over it, and gathered information and everything. And that picture I look horrible in, by the way, but he's a good-looking guy. He's like 6 foot something. I don't know what. Anyway, he's the chief, not the chief, but the hurricane expert at WPLG. So what he does is he's based in, and I asked him this question, and I think it kind of opened a can of worms for him. He really didn't want to talk about this, but maybe he was going to do it in his presentation. I don't know. But I asked him about, I asked him, is Betty Davis your boss? Because she's the chief meteorologist at WPLG. And he goes, no, I work independently. I work out of Georgia. And I just come on there, and it looks like I'm in the studio, but I'm not really in the studio. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And he goes, yep. I said, well, are you going to come down if there's a hurricane, like they need you there in the studio, or are you going to just stay remotely so that you're not submerged in water, if that were the case? So he did a whole presentation on, he added that, or maybe he had it ready or he added it to his presentation, but I remember Bill Reed saying, no, you should be at WPLG when a hurricane's hitting. And Michael Lowry probably got a little uncomfortable with that. And I'm thinking, oh, what did I start here with this whole thing? But I was amazed to hear that he wasn't at WPLG. He's actually in Georgia. He has a son that's disabled, and I guess they have special treatment for him up in Georgia, and that suits him better to be up in that area. And he can still do the hurricane forecasting from there on WPLG. So I thought that was interesting. So here's my favorite of all, Brian Norcross. And again, I know I told you all I don't do selfies, and a couple of those people wanted to do selfies. I did. The reason I did the Michael Lowry one is because my brother-in-law is like crazy about WPLG, and he's always talking about Michael Lowry all the time. So I said I got to get a picture with Michael Lowry. But Brian Norcross here. Brian Norcross. For those of you that don't know Brian, I don't know anybody that doesn't know Brian Norcross, but this guy is an encyclopedia of hurricane information. And not only that, but he asks the most questions. Like the way you get educated is by asking a lot of questions. And Brian Norcross, every conference I've been to, this guy is sitting in the front and he's asking a lot of questions. And not only just generic questions, but deep questions. Like when the guy was doing the AI model discussion from the European Model Agency, Brian Norcross was like, well, how many, ensembles is there going to be, and how do you expect people to distribute this information? And he just asks a lot of good questions. So, and then the subject came up about my database, and he said, Jim, I have something interesting for you, and it's about the 1888 hurricane that hit Miami, supposedly. That hurricane really did not hit Miami straight on. It went north of Miami. He did a lot of research on, because you can only go back so far when it comes to newspapers and documentation. The Hurricane Center has a lot of good stuff on all their old records on stuff, on their, what do they call those files? They're linked in the Hurricane City database. But anyway, the files at NEC don't even go back to as far as some of these hurricanes that have hit. But the 1888 hurricane, Of course, there was no hurricane center back then, but the data is you can't find out anything. So he found a museum somewhere that had some information on it and found out that that hurricane passed north of Miami, like closer to Fort Lauderdale. And so that I had to change that in my database from a brush for Fort Lauderdale to a hit for Fort Lauderdale, and then to a brush for Palm Beach County because it was kind of a small system. And so it's adjusted in the database with a reference to Brian Norcross because I would have never found out about that if he didn't tell me at this conference about that hurricane. So it really matters. In fact, Brian Norcross, back in what was it, 2005 or something, or way back before that. No, it's 1999. He was referencing that database on the Sun Sentinel newspaper. Somebody was asking, where can I find information about one of the cities or whatever? And you know what? I'm going to pull it up here. So let me show you this. This was the Brian Norcross. It's called Ask Brian Why. And they asked him, why, what was the date on that? 1999 and December 6th. He was referencing the Hurricane City database in that article in the Sun Sentinel way back then. And the woman was asking about, city was it? Tampa. And I had all the information about Tampa in the database. So he's been passing my stuff around for, a while now, but he hasn't lately shared any of my stuff that I know of. But it was really good catching up with Brian. He's up there in age. He's like 70, 75 or something. I think he's like up there, a little older than I thought. He looks pretty good there in the picture. And there were some rumblings at the conference. I don't want to name names, but somebody said well, I think you probably should step away. And I'm like, what? Like, the guy's knowledgeable. And they said something like he's sticking around too long, like he's milking it or something. And I'm like, that was in the Millibar, of course. Another story that happened in the Millibar that's kind of funny. Let me see what the next picture is while I'm waiting. Oh yeah, this is another picture of Brian Norcross and Neil Frank. I'll pull this picture up because I want to talk about this. But anyway, Michael Ehrenberg, he's one of the chief meteorologists at the ABC affiliate in Palm Beach. And funny thing is, we kind of flew in and left on the same flights and everything, and we just missed each other on the way in. But anyway, he was at the Millibar, and we were talking, and I said to him, I remember seeing a video about you where they were going to the Dolphin Stadium down in Miami, and they were asking, are you happy that the Dolphins have to sign this new offensive lineman named Michael Ehrenberg? And it was a play from their local news station, to just play off, because Michael Ehrenberg's a very well-known meteorologist here in South Florida. And they were like, do you know the offensive lineman is named Michael Ehrenberg? And they go, yeah, we're real happy Michael Ehrenberg's coming to play for the Dolphins. And so when I confronted him about that, he's like, what video? I never heard of that video. And I go, your station has it on Facebook. And he was kind of embarrassed about it. But I go, there's nothing to be embarrassed. I mean, it's a compliment. But he seemed kind of perturbed over that. And sure enough, by the time I got back and I tried to find the video again, it was completely scrubbed off the internet. So I don't know. I mean, it was like, I probably shouldn't have said anything, but I just thought it was a hilarious video. And I know he had to be in on it. So, I mean, why would you be embarrassed over that? I thought it was funny. I guess some people don't have a sense of humor, I guess. And then by the way, on the way back, he was on the same plane as me, and we took the same shuttle to the airport. And I said to him, Michael, I got the tip for the driver, right? I was going to give him $20. And Michael tipped him anyways. So maybe that was his way of saying to me, screw you. I mean, I got to handle my own tip, but I tried to, I just going to take care of the tip and everything. And we said goodbye at the airport and everything. We left on good terms. But I mean, I thought it was a little bit of an overreaction to a video that, I mean, I felt bad when I brought it up because he was like shocked and, kind of embarrassed. I'm like, oh man, it's just a video. I mean, it's all in good fun. But anyway, this picture here, Neil Frank, Brian Norcross, this was back at the 2005 National Hurricane Conference in New Orleans. I took this picture, and those are two legends standing side by side. So Neil Frank was my favorite director of all time because he was so he had such an animated way of explaining the threat, and I think that's important to for an NHC director to scare the crap out of people. There's nothing wrong with that. And I remember when there was a tropical storm coming up, Dennis, in 1981. He was scaring the crap out of everybody. But anyway, Neil Frank passed away this past year. I don't know if it was this year or the year before, but anyway, they did a nice tribute to him at the conference, which I really appreciated. They talked about Bill Reed talked about him being a great athlete, which I didn't know. He was a basketball, football player in high school and college. I mean, I didn't know all this. Like, the guy was a tremendous athlete. So Neil Frank was just incredible. Yeah, Brian's the man. He's incredible during Andrew and still is. Yep. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate that. Yeah. Again, if you want to comment on Facebook and YouTube, feel free. We'll put your comments on air. So yeah, he's sorely missed. Neil Frank used to attend this conference, the Tropical Weather Conference. So I missed him. This was my first time attending it. So but anyway, I have met Neil Frank face to face, and we talked about vertical evacuation and everything. He's a great guy. But Brian Norcross, incredible human being. I mean, the guy is just on top of everything. All right, so let's talk about Hurricane City a little bit. I'm adding these newspaper articles to Hurricane City in the database. Like, for example, this is Miami. So this was the 1948 hurricane that hit Miami on September 22nd. A lot of the hurricanes everybody knows about them, right? And there's a lot of hurricanes that people don't know about that much. So I'm adding a lot of these newspaper articles to Hurricane City database. So I'm excited about that. Let me go back. Let's see. So I wanted to show you Hurricane City real quick here. So here's Hurricane City. And this is the temperature SST map at Hurricane City. This is phenomenal because you can zoom in on this map. Let's just say, let's come in off of Miami right now and see what the temperature is like right here off of my location. You can get down almost to street level on this. And you click, let's see, I would be up here. I'm like in this area, and it's currently 83.6 degrees. But you just click on the screen and it gives you the actual temperature in Fahrenheit and Celsius. It's incredible, this map. So again, I mentioned the anomalies at the beginning of the show, but if you want to know the actual temperatures out in the Atlantic Ocean when these maps, when there's an active system out there, the cone of air will be on these maps, and you can click the temperatures, like see off Virginia at 65.6 degrees. And the cone of air will be on here. And not only that, but a lot of people think, I don't talk about NHC a lot, but I do a lot at Hurricane City for NHC. Up here, this whole area at the top of the site where I'm writing my comments and whatnot, that will all change. When there's an active system in the Atlantic Basin, even if it's an invest, all of the links will be above that map to the Hurricane Center, to the exact advisory from the National Hurricane Center, to the targeted maps from the National Hurricane Center, zeroing in on those cities that are at Hurricane City that are being threatened. All of those links at NHC will be automated at the top of that site. So don't think when you go to Hurricane City now that, this is just going to be Jim's opinion throughout. I hardly say anything through the season. This will all be automated up in here as hurricanes are roaming, and the cone, of course, will be out here showing the cone of air, and the best performing models will be within that cone at Hurricane City. So just wanted you to be aware of that Hurricane City changes a lot. And here's the good part about Hurricane City. If you're hearing impaired, check this out. When you mouse over sea surface temperatures, listen.
Sea surface temperatures, ships and buoys, tides, satellite.
You can get all these maps, Hurricane Hunters.
Best tracked at 7-day outlook from the National Hurricane Center.
All of these will go full screen on the map. Like for example, the let's take radars, for example. The radar map pops up. You can choose whatever radar you want to use all over the Atlantic Basin. We know about every radar from A to Z. There's no radars that are missed. And I want to put a special thank you to Chris Hollis, tropicalatlantic.com. He's put a lot of this together. I handle a lot of the maps, but he handles a lot of the coding behind the scene, and it's just a great comment. Him and I putting all this stuff together. But what I'm really the most excited about going into the hurricane season is hurricane radio. Check this out. Right above the tracking map at the top of the site here, right up in here, hurricane radio. You click that link, and it
75 miles per hour. Hurricane Joaquin strengthening is now a Category 4 hurricane. It has formed across the Bahamas. This has been a really problematic hurricane.
So it's stuff like that, right? All those, it loops 24 hours a day. There's uh, tremendous content on that radio feed. There's so much stuff on there. It could take like a month to listen to everything that's on hurricane radio. We have AI voiceovers of Hurricane Hunter aircraft experiences in hurricanes. The Hurricane Center employees discussing the models, how the Hurricane Center operates, everything you need to know about the Hurricane Center. It's got Hurricane Q&A, multiple choice Q&A questions. It's called Hurricane Trivia. I have a whole bunch of those I made. It's got hurricane music, everything except Rock You Like a Hurricane. It's got all kinds of music. It's got interviews with hurricane survivors. It's got uh, all kinds of research. The boats that have been sunk in hurricanes, like the Phantom and Hurricane Mitch, and the boat that got destroyed in the hurricane that hit in 2014, the hurricane that was in the Bahamas. That ship that got sunk in the Bahamas. It's got all those documentaries on there. How the courts handled the cases, who got charged for it, all the crazy stuff over the years at the Hurricane Center and it happened in the news media. And oh my God, it's just packed with stuff. And here's the best part. When I'm in a hurricane, I'll be live on that radio station. I'll be giving you live reports from the road on on that radio station. I could do it with my cell phone. Just hit it. I got an encoder on my phone. It goes right to hurricane radio, and I can give live reports. Um, Also, the National Hurricane Center forecast and updates from NHC. Those audio clips will be available on hurricane radio during active periods. I'll even have my commentary on what I think a storm might do, or I'm on the road, what people are acting and behaving like on the road. Aftermath, that's the most important, because when you're in a hurricane, a lot of times the cell towers go down, and this radio station operates at such a low bit rate. It's like 6K or something, 6 kilobytes or something of data that it transmits. So I can literally do it with my phone with very little data and give you live reports from the road. So that's going to be a lot of fun trying to manage hurricane radio from the road. I'm going to try to experiment with that this year if I get the opportunity. But even if I don't get the opportunity to do an intercept this year, I'm going to still talk about local in-house coverage when we're going to do it. All that'll be on hurricane radio. There'll be live updates, sometimes several times an hour during active threats. So tune in to hurricane radio at Hurricane City. It's in the navigation bar at the top of the site. And also, if you click the drop-down menus over here and you go to, let's see, hurricane radio, where is it? Oh, it's under multimedia. Yeah, hurricane radio. And then it'll show you the image of what's currently playing right now. Like right now it's playing NOAA Weather Partners Central Operations audio on hurricane radio. So check that out. It's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Just the music alone, a lot of it's AI driven, a lot of it's popular music that's been made by artists. It's just I'm so proud of hurricane radio. It's not public right now. I don't have it listed in any directories on the internet because I want it to be I want organic. I want to see how many people come through Hurricane City and listen to it, and then maybe next year we'll get it listed other places. Oh, also, please visit Cane Talk in the drop down menu, and there's Cane Talk. There's a lot of people in here that are really knowledgeable during hurricanes, and they talk a lot. Cypress, Texas is the best. Cypress, Texas comes in there and posts constantly really good data, really good data. I get a lot of my information from Cypress, Texas. Fred, you got Chris in there posting. I post from time to time. We don't have a lot of people in there, but they're very knowledgeable. So it's a great place to find out what's going on in the tropics. All right, so let's get back to the images here. So the house. I know I'm already running almost an hour here, but we'll get to all this. Oh, by the way, comments. Bill Phillips. Thank you again, Bill, for the help over the years. Bill's in a limited role this year. We're going to handle the remote cameras. But former NEC director Neil Frank served from 74 to 87, died in 2025, December 24th, right? Yep. I can actually list all of the Hurricane Center directors in order, memorized. We were playing that at the Miller Bar a little bit, asking people if you can name every NHC director from beginning. And it starts with Grady Norton, of course, because he was before, there was even a Hurricane Center. And then, you had Robert Simpson and, on and on and on. But it's, it's a lot of fun to list the Hurricane Centers in order of the years. The hardest ones are the latest ones, believe it or not, because they've been changing out more frequently than in the past. In the past, they used to stick around for 5 or 6 years. Now they kind of change them like shoes. So, but anyway, here's the house. Notice we have a brand new metal roof. Allied Roofing came out and put a 12 gauge roof on there. Last year I had the stucco reinforced on the second floor up in here. That's all been reinforced, and of course there's the tower out there. That's also been reinforced with more guide wire. The house, I'm pretty sure can withstand. When we got hit by Wilma, the tower withstood that. A couple guide wires broke, but it could withstand probably a category 3 or 4. I just don't know if it could handle a category 5. We'll have to see about that. But I also have this generator. So this is called the Opus battery generator, and it's pretty big. It's like the size of a portable generator, and I have it hooked to the circuit panel in my house there. And so I thought it was uninterruptible, but it turned out I was kind of duped by the manufacturer. The way their advertising works, they were kind of like, yeah, you can have uninterruptible power, but that's not the way it works. So the power goes out. I have UPS here in the office, and then I simply go out in the garage and I flip these switches right here. I just flip those to the on position, and everything gets powered in the house except for the central AC. Which doesn't matter because we have portable air conditionings, and it's just my wife and myself and our dog, Milo, and cat. So, we can survive. We can rough it out. But we have a generator out back as well that powers the battery-operated system when it starts to run dead. So we'd run the generator during the day, charge up the battery, and then at nighttime, so we don't disturb the neighbors, we have the battery backup that can run the house. And this is a portable gasoline pump housing that is in the back of my Intercept vehicle. My Dodge Ram has this mounted in the back, and this holds like 20 gallons of gas. So normally I bring gas cans with me, and I've never needed them. I think once or twice in an Intercept, I might have started running low on gas and maybe had to add 5 gallons or something. But this is, I fill this up before I get into the hurricane zone, and then it doesn't matter how much I drive around and film the hurricane, the aftermath. It doesn't matter how many days I'm there. If the gas stations aren't functioning, I can run on this. It's got enough gas to run me 600 miles. So it's instead of carrying gas cans, I see a lot of chasers out there. They have gas cans strapped on top of their cars, fastened to their trunks. I mean, it's just with bungee cords. It just seems like it's sloppy. Like I'd rather just have this inside of my covered back. The back of the utility truck has a shield, a metal cover that goes over this and locks in place. So the wind, it'd have to be one hell of a wind gust to blow the back of that thing off. But it is fastened anyways to the back of the truck, so it's really not going to go anywhere. So these are the maps I make at the end of each hurricane. Well, actually, I update them during the hurricane season, and I update them final at the end of the hurricane season, and then I give what percentage of the cities in the database have been impacted by 40-mile-per-hour winds. So this is 2023, the year Hurricane Idalia hit Northwest Florida, the one that I was in. And all the red dots represent 40-mile-per-hour winds. So 37% of the Atlantic Basin was impacted in 2023. Then we forward to 2024, and that went up to 63%. And funny thing is, there was less hurricanes in 24 than there was in 23, and there was almost double the impacts. And that's why it's important to remember, even though they're expecting a slow season, you may get more impacts in that slow season than you got in the busier season. So I always try to warn people, just because we have an El Nino or a slower hurricane season does not mean that you have to let your guard down. And it's, oh, good, glad it's going to be only 14 storms, or I'm glad it's only going to be 10, because this is what happens. This was an 18 name storm season where 63% of the basin was impacted. Last year, the year before, was 37%, so it almost doubled. And then, of course, last year, look at that. It dropped off significantly. We had 13 named storms last year. And look at it, there's hardly any red dots. Only 18% of the basin was impacted by 40-mile-per-hour winds. And this, of course, this includes the Azores, the Cape Verde Islands, the Canadian Maritimes, the entire Atlantic Basin. I'm not a Pacific Basin guy. I don't deal with that. So, let's see. Bobby's listening tonight. Hurricane Radio. I love that. Check it out, Bobby. You're going to like that a lot. Let's see. Tropical Atlantic. This is Chris. There's over 100 preparedness clips alone on Hurricane Radio. That's right. I forgot to mention all the hurricane preparation. Oh my God, we got hundreds of hours. Well, probably hundreds of clips of. And by the way, most of our clips are no more than 5 or 10 minutes, so you're not going to get bored listening to one thing for like an hour. It's a lot of short clips that are really informational on Hurricane Radio, so check that out. But yeah, the hurricane preparedness audio is tremendous. We got tons of those on there as well. So here's my predictions for 2026. This is just a map that I make every year. And again, the maps are really hard because this hardly ever happens. I mean, there's been a few years where my tracks were pretty spot on, but again, if it's going to be early, it's probably going to be towards Texas. They have the earliest hit date in the entire Atlantic Basin. The Texas coast gets hit anywhere between August 10th and August 25th on average. Of course, they could get hit later. It happens a lot in September. They've even had some October systems in Texas. But if you're going to get hit in Texas, it's probably more likely going to be August or early September. So those are the two potential splits. Something develops in the Gulf and heads into the Florida Panhandle or towards Texas. And then, of course, mid-season, something maybe in the Western Caribbean, shooting up the Eastern Seaboard. And then later in the season, that threat for Jamaica potentially again. And then Cuba and Southeast Florida, the Western Bahamas, really concerns me. I had them at high risk last year, and some of them were impacted in the like Nassau and Long Island, Bahamas. Eleuthera was impacted last year. But this year I'm thinking something a little further west towards Florida. And again, as I stated earlier in the broadcast, Southeast Florida gets hit in slower seasons generally. So do not let your guard down in Southeast Florida. All right, before I get to this, I wanted to talk about let me get back on camera here. I wanted to talk about the models. So this came up at the conference, the AI models, and now they're going to be introducing hundreds of ensemble models that go with the AI models. So the AI models, Google AI model last year performed brilliantly. In fact, it was right at the top of all the models, even matching the National Hurricane Center's track, which NHC is usually the best, and that's why you should always pay attention to the National Hurricane Center. But usually the GFS and the Euro are close to the NHC, but the AI model was actually better than the National Hurricane Center. So that's something to pay attention to. But the AI models for this coming season is going to have a lot more stuff injected into them from drones. They're going to be shooting drones from the hurricane hunters now. There's going to be a lot more data from the sail drones, and a lot of more drone data is going to go into these models. Not only that, but there's going to be potentially hundreds of ensemble models. Now, what ensemble models are the models, when you look at the GFS, for example, they run like 20. Uh, Last time I checked, maybe it's more than that now. I don't know. I haven't checked lately, but the same with the Euro, like 20 ensemble models, and now it's 100. Like the AI models are going to be producing 100. Now, what worries me about this is people on social media are going to get a hold of these ensemble models. It's only going to be a matter of time before they start making animated graphics like at Tropical Tidbits, that you're going to be able to animate these ensemble models. And when that happens, now we're going to be in a situation where somebody that gets, has hundreds of thousands of followers is going to push a particular model that takes it into their particular city, and they're going to run with that one ensemble out of hundreds of ensemble models. And this is what I'm worried about with the AI models being able to calculate so quickly and produce so much data that there are going to be so many runs and so many models that it's going to be like a free for all on social media of people distributing, cherry picking a particular model run that takes it into their neighborhood. And that just really worries me, but it's for the sake of science. We have to do this. We need to know, have a better idea where these hurricanes are going to go. And Melissa proved that last year. The AI model nailed the track into Western Jamaica. I know they still had a hurricane warning out for Kingston, but you have to do that for safety purposes. But we all kind of knew this was heading into Western Jamaica, and that AI model had it pegged. In fact, the AI model's kind of even hinted it might go west of Jamaica for a little while there. But the thing about it is, I'm worried about these models being disseminated by these people, especially these guys that are doing these TikTok videos where they need to get attention and they need clicks. So, okay, let's go ahead and put one of the ensembles out of hundreds and let's put that on a video, and you're going to get thousands of clicks on that because people go, oh, it's coming into Miami. But no, you got to look at the operational models. I only post, here's the way I look at models. So when there's an invest out there, I don't even really dwell on invest too much because you're going to have a lot of invests and probably only about half of them are going to develop, if that. But the invest, although they're getting better at that, by the way, but the invest automatically trigger the tropical models, right? So you're getting the tropical model runs, which are the HWARF, the HMON, the all of the tropical model runs are displayed, right? And you can see them at Tropical Tidbits. And what worries me is the amount of models that'll be able to be shown in these videos is not a good idea. So what I do when I'm tracking what I look for is several runs from the GFS. Like if it's a 10-day model, let's say these guys are always pushing these 2-week models, right? Which is garbage. They never come true. I never post a 2-week model. But when it gets in the 10-day to 7-day range, and that model shows it 2 and 3 days in a row, then you start to perk up a little bit. You look at your eyebrows raised, you start going, okay, now I go and I look for the Euro or the Canadian model. And in some cases, even the UK Met or something. And I'll look at those models and I'll go, okay, if they show even a weak system developing in this area, now it's something. I don't have a problem with somebody posting a 10-day GFS if the other models are kind of hinting at that as well. I don't have a problem with it. What I do have a problem with is when you're posting something that's no other model is showing. It's one model. And again, this will happen with the ensembles. When they start releasing hundreds of these ensembles, they're going to cherry pick that one ensemble and they're going to run with it. And it's going to be a problem on social media. But again, that information is publicly available. I want it that way. I don't want to see them just, make it private because I don't know. Maybe they'll do that someday. I hope they don't do that. But all I'm asking these guys to do is just be responsible. Like like I said, I look for consistency. I look for, is more than one model showing this? Is there some consistency to it? Is there, if it's on again, off again, I watch it. I don't just throw it out there on social media. By the way, a hurricane's coming into Miami. No, not unless it's showing it day after day after day after day. Then it's okay to talk about it. And of course, the NHC outlooks, they'll discuss their thinking on it as well. And you put all that together. And if there's a serious threat, then by all means, knock yourself out. Tweet your ass, or tweet in the bathroom while you're taking a crap. You can tweet in the grocery store, whatever. But check your spelling. Make sure you're posting the right stuff, and check for consistency in the models. Some of these guys have toned it down a little bit, thankfully, because they've taken a lot of heat for it. But I try to be conservative with that. I just don't think there's a need to get people ratcheted up into a fury over this, and these models are getting better and better. And by the way, at Hurricane City, if you want to check the models, see which ones are performing the best, I've gone over the tutorials a bunch of times at Hurricane City and these videos. You click the best track data, you click on models, and you can choose to highlight the models in red that are doing poorly and the ones that are doing good in green. And it'll display the best performing, how many miles at each day they've been off, and you can kind of get an idea of which models are performing the best. But just try to. All I'm asking these guys to do, I know you have big followings and everything, just try to keep it real and look for some consistency. I know and here's another thing I hate. I hate this, right? The meteorologists to come on and do this. They'll come on social media and they'll post the GFS 384-hour model and go, don't show this. Well, why are you showing it? You're doing the same thing. You're posting that model and you're saying, don't do what I'm doing. But you're giving them bait. Oh, look at that. He posted it, so I'm going to post it. And this is what happens. I think meteorologists have just as much of a responsibility to not post these long. Don't frame it as, I'm here to tell you not to post this, or I'm here to tell you that this is probably not going to happen and don't pay attention to anybody else that posts this model, but they'll post it anyway to get clicks. Stop. Just stop with the posting of the long range. Anything beyond 10 days is garbage. When it gets within 10, look for consistency. Look for other models. If the other models are showing it, then by all means, it's time to start talking about it. Pay attention to the outlooks from the National Hurricane Center. And what I also do is I read the discussions from the National Hurricane Center, not only for developed systems, but for systems that are in an invest stage. What are they saying in the discussion for the Atlantic Basin? Where are the highs and lows? Where's the shear located? You can learn all that. And be careful when you're posting the models. Just read the outlooks from the National Hurricane. See what their mindset is on some. Not that they're right all the time, but at least get the insight from trained professional meteorologists that look at the data and disseminate it in their discussions, and you can get a better idea of what to post. All right. Here's the anemometer that I use on the road, right? So this is the one that's gets put up on the beach generally. This is the one that's not magnetic, and this is held with straps to any pole, palm tree, whatever. And the anemometer is attached below the camera. There's a camera, and then there's magnets holding the anemometer on, and the digital readout is in front of the camera. So I show this on my chases. That anemometer is questionable, or at least I thought it was questionable. In Hurricane Idalia in 2023, I measured 166 on it. Now, I've talked to numerous storm chasers. They're all like, oh, bullshit. There's no way Yeah, 166, and I think it was a mesovortis that bounced over the top of the vehicle and may have, because we were stationary, we weren't moving. The anemometer was reset, and so think yeah. Here's how it's normally mounted. So here's the truck, and it's usually about maybe 10 feet off the ground, and that's showing the Davis instruments on top. But I used to put the magnet ones on top of this device. So it's about 10 feet off the ground, and potentially a mesovortis may have bounced over the truck and just nicked it enough to give it that reading. So I'm going to turn the volume up. Here's the video of what happened on that Hurricane Idalia intercept.
Hello. What was that?
So notice in the video, again, if you play it in slow motion here, right about there, notice that ice container moving from the front of the building. That ice container weighs over 500 pounds, empty. So it had to take a hell of a gust of wind to take that thing and fling it out into the street like that. That thing ended out in the middle of the street when that hurricane was over. But you might say, well, still, Jim, the anemometer wasn't accurate. It wasn't. And I actually took this video. I took this the video of the wind measuring the 166. I took it off of the final production of that video because I didn't trust it. I thought, I don't trust 166. I don't want to embarrass myself. So I took that off of the video. I left the video of the actual, the ice chest getting blown over and ripped off the wall of the building. But I took off the miles per hour. So after thinking about it, I remembered I tested these instruments a few years earlier. So here, first of all, here's the ice chest, 510 pounds empty. That's the exact model that was ripped off that wall. And here is the actual reading on the digital readout, 166.2. At that particular moment, the winds were 51 miles per hour. Because when you're in a hurricane like that, the winds fluctuate greatly. You can go from tropical storm to hurricane, tropical storm, hurricane, tropical storm, hurricane. Then you'll all of a sudden get a gust out of nowhere that's tremendous, right? So you think, okay, again, 166, bullshit, didn't happen. But here's the reality of it. So here's the Billy Goat blower that I own. I have a construction business. And this is the Billy Goat that I own. And notice the model that I have is right here. But you notice the 167, 186, 177 miles an hour. Keep an eye on those miles per hour. So we took the anemometer and we put it right in front of this blower just to see how accurate it is. And here is the video. Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. 166 miles per hour, gusting to 171. That's the anemometer speed from the blower that's wind tunnel tested blower that blows at 100. And we kept it there for a minute, for a solid minute, measuring the winds, and that's what it came up with. That's what the blower blows, 170 mile an hour winds, and it measured exactly 170 miles per hour. Notice the consistency. 160, 171, 181, 135. Stopped at 153. So again, that anemometer is accurate, and it measured 166 mile an hour gust in Hurricane Idalia in 2023 in Perry, Florida. The question is, what was it? Is probably a mesovortis, one of these swirling wind. The wind come from all kinds of different directions, but it probably bounced high enough over the top of that gas station where the bottom half of it just grabbed that ice chest and flung it off that wall. Because here's the thing, when we went across the street on the backside of Hurricane Idalia, we measured 130 on that side of the street as the canopy was getting blown off. So I think it's accurate. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure that, you know, that anemometer is accurate. I'm sorry, but it's, you know, it is what it is. Bobby, keep it real. I do keep it real. Chris again, NEC outlooks for invest and NEC discussions for depressions, storms, and hurricanes are always must reads. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't go hog wild on model runs unless I see some consistency. I've gotten on the phone with Bill a few times and I'm like, you need to see this, or I'll text him over the run because it's been like 2 or 3 days of that constant model run showing up. So, while I'm talking here, it's the checklist of all your things you might need this upcoming hurricane season. So we're going to wrap it up here. Again, be ready. FEMA's not going to be ready. FEMA's not going to be able to help you this year, folks. You're going to have to wing it in the aftermath of a hurricane, especially if you're outside of Florida. Anything else I'm leaving out here? Yeah, Bobby said the NEC discussions have been the best. It's like candy, time spent while reading discussion. Yep. Yeah, share those on social media. Share the discussions from the National Hurricane Center. Share that on social media. Stop sharing. Well, by then we already have an organized system, so the NEC has a good handle on it. But when you're talking about a model that goes out, 384 hours, I mean, it's crazy. It's just beyond. It's one of those things you go, huh, right? And then when it's like a 12-day model, you're like, And then when it's 10 days, you're like, And then you start looking around at other models. And when it gets to 8 days and it's still showing your neck of the woods getting hit, you're like, You start leaning in, right? And for me, it's within that 7-day period. That's when I start really going, okay, I'm going to go intercept this hurricane, or I'm going to batten down the hatches here at the house. Speaking of which, and I'm going to say something that's unpopular here, but category ones, I've had this discussion on my shows numerous times. Hurricanes can kill, yes, absolutely. But if you're in a well-fortified home and you're away from the coastline, there's no reason to run from a category one. In fact, you don't really even need shutters for a category one in most cases. Now, if you're in a mobile home, get out. Obviously, if you're on the coast, get out because the surge can still get you, especially if it's high tide. But if you're in a fortified home, a category one is completely unnecessary to evacuate or board up your house. More people get injured putting up shutters putting them up and taking them down than actually get injured during the hurricanes. So don't put the shutters up unless it's a significant, like if you're going to get 100-mile-an-hour winds or greater, put your shutters up. But if it's a category one or a strong tropical storm, you don't need your shutters. You just don't. Don't kill yourself. I see some people, they completely freak out. They lose their mind. There's people getting in fist fights at Home Depot, slamming carts into each other, stealing the last piece of plywood. You don't need to do this for a category one. You're just going to exasperate yourself, and you're probably going to end up hurting yourself. Save it for the 100 miles an hour and up. Get your shutters, prepare your house. But other than that, category one, get away from the beach, get out of those mobile homes. 100 miles an hour wind will flip over a lot of mobile homes, even 90. So it's nothing to play with. But if you're in a fortified home, you do not need to freak out. All right. Tropical Atlantic, amazing. You tested the anemometer. Yeah, I thought about that, Chris. I thought, if I'm going to bring this out on the road, I need to know it works right. When Bill came down, we were going to do this, and then I didn't have the time, and so I decided to take it to the yard. And the blower sits on the truck. It's a big, gigantic blower. It's like the size of a generator or something. And it blows, like I said, 150, 170 mile an hour winds. And I turned it on the truck and I set the anemometer right in front of the blowhole. So we know it's blowing 170 and it's measuring 170. So the anemometer is accurate. I mean, give or take 5-10 miles an hour. We were hit with 150 plus mile an hour wind in Hurricane Idalia. It only lasted for a couple of seconds, but there was something spinning that hit that anemometer, and I'm going to leave it at that. It's accurate. It's not in the video, the actual reading of the anemometer, but it was 166. All right. Thank you all for watching. This will be archived at Hurricane City in the live page at Hurricane City. By the way, just checking for kicks. I just wanted to see if it was on the live. Yeah, it is live. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all again, and again, Chris in Tampa. Thank you again for all your help from Tropical Atlantic and Cypress, Texas on the message board. Go there, canetalk.com. Join the crew over there. They talk a lot about stuff when hurricanes are hitting. Hurricane City's all about landfalling hurricanes, but check out the stuff at Hurricane City. Again, the site is, the best website. I think it's the best hurricane tracking site on the internet. Years ago, there was a lot of competition. Hurricane City wasn't the best. A lot of people called it gaudy and whatnot. But this by far is the best hurricane tracking site on the internet. It's got so many things. And again, the advisories. Oh, and by the way, you can mouse over the names of the storms if you're wondering how to pronounce something. Like, for example, Josephine. Listen. Here we go. Mouse over Josephine, it'll tell you.
Josephine, Marco, Paulette, Wilfred, Edward.
So if you're ever in doubt, mouse over the names of the storms at Hurricane City, and you can get the proper pronunciation. That's something NHC might want to do on their site. Just a little advice there from the guy that works out of his bedroom. That maybe there's some things you can add to NHC to make it more user friendly to people with disabilities and whatnot. But anyway, all right, that's it. Thank you all for supporting Hurricane City, the ones that do. And we'll see you when hurricanes threaten land. We'll do hurricane warning shows as hurricane warnings get hoisted, especially when they're majors. We'll be all over it. That's it for me, Jim Williams.